Forgive me for being a little, I don't know, winded, but I'm a little shaken up and stirred from my last channeling session. So I decided to just try to talk about it, even though it's quite rattling. And it's about the coronavirus, extraterrestrial beings, other dimensional beings, explaining how it happened and how it's going on and why they aren't here and how they could come here and what coronavirus all could be and the different, like, in a non-linear fashion, in a non-time place. There are so many possibilities, but there are about 6 or 7 major ones that could happen with this coronavirus. So, and I know what they are, and I think I need to tell people. And I'm not trying to put anything in their minds because I don't want people to worry. But at the same time, some of the best outcomes come from this. This could wake people up and get us together, finally. But I need to talk about it. I felt really stupid that I was working and trying to deliver bread while I have all this stuff in my head. And I can't think of anything but it. I can't, it's not one of those things where it's just an idea in my mind. It's reality. It's a memory of a happening that will happen if I don't say something. So, I mean, I can start with the extraterrestrials because coronavirus is going to be its own video, and I know that one. That stuff is actually really awesome, some of the stuff that I have about the coronavirus, but some of it's pretty underhanded by the people we're supposed to trust. And of course, they've been doing that for a long, long time, and nobody would listen to me because I'm just some guy who works normal people jobs out in the middle of nowhere in Pennsylvania. So people don't take people like me seriously when it comes to big issues about, you know, our governments and that kind of stuff that seems so astronomical to people. Like, but I know about universes and existence itself. Like, I know how the universe itself is actually not there without a human body. But that's another story too. But the extra dimensional beings, like, it all started because I just asked so many questions today to try to be more clear on certain things that I already know but need to tune in on in order to be able to elaborate more on them, because I have so many things going on in my mind, trying to keep on to my normal life and focus on the people I care about and all that stuff, that sometimes I lose the ability to focus until I can quiet my mind and get in that space, which takes a while sometimes. But some of these things I have to talk about in synonym form, or like or as, because some of it already makes sense. Like, we look at our kids, like, who's holding on to the ideas that we should have this government and this reform? The people that are holding on to it are the people who lived that way and only know of that. So therefore, they're holding on to a system that they themselves don't really agree with. Half of them don't agree with the system at all, and they do nothing but complain about the system, but then they back up the idea of having politics. Politics, the world of politics, is not going to be much longer if we want to have some kind of control on our own lives. Each individual has to start exploring the inner world, not the outer world. We already have messed with the outer world long enough to not have many more exciting things happening until we actually learn more about ourselves, so we can tap into new abilities, which we have. And that stuff sounds crazy, but that's where the interdimensional beings come into, because some people are starting to channel things like that. I unlocked it, and I know it sounds weird and bold for me to say that, but I did. I gave Earth the ability, because we're all one being. Not even just Earth, everything physical is one being in spiritual existence, learning. But because we are one of the many spiritual beings that are learning, and through that process we broke up into more because of our consciousness and memory, just like computers hold on to the details of this thing you did and that thing you did. It's just like this life you did and that life you did is just like life organism computer. It's not even a computer. I hate to even use that synonym because it's so much more than that. But the extraterrestrial people, or not even people, they're just, sorry, I dropped my phone. They're beings, and they are leftover remains of older planet, let's, how I say, like, planet experiments. Like, in order for a planet to be created, this Earth went through many, 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 many other planets like it. in order to sustain what it is now. We know that with other species that developed, and that has happened with this Earth as an organism, because all the stars, all the moons, all those things are just the same kind of system trying to support an idea like the Earth. And it's all happening right now. All time, all space is happening right now. And through those, basically what I'm considering science experiments, or like planet experiments, during time, the vehicle of time, the process of billions and trillions and gagillions of years of evolution could have taken place. And it does, as it momentarily updates through all of it at once. All of it. And I know that's so hard for anyone to imagine, because there's gagillions of things going on just inside your body, just inside the leaf of a plant, just inside the raindrop on the window. But all those things at once are updating momentarily at the now moment. There's nothing but that. And it's not just a cliche statement. There is really nothing but that. And there never has been anything but now. So, getting onto the extraterrestrial beings, like, it's not as fascinating as people made it out to be, but it's more fascinating. It's not other planets of, well, there are other planets of interplanetary galactic wars and battles going on, but by the time that they've become an alien, they've gone through the existence of, if they're a higher being with more potentials, they didn't start with them. They developed because we, as a unit of planetary universal energy, developed memory. And as those planets on those planetary, what I call planetary science experiments, as other organismal bodies of mass, like the size of a planet, tried to evolve until we became an Earth that supports our life in a physical world, all those other ones, they blew up. They went into like balls of gas, balls of fire. They disintegrated or demolecularized into gaseous spaces. They turned into all the different things that are going on in our galaxy, like the comets and the rings around planets and all those things. Those are all part of evolution. In a non-time sense, space is just as vast and amazing as time is, because they're both a physical representation of our spirit learning to become a more harmonious spirit. I'm not supposed to kill anybody. That's naturally, understandable. We are intelligent enough to know that. The animals that aren't. So unfortunately, we have to deal with that, and somehow, maybe over time, we will work with the animals and do that. And we will, actually. But right now, we have to get control of ourselves and understand this. Viruses and all those kind of things are just a distraction of people in the physical world who have no idea what's going on spiritually. Anyone who's talking about viruses is not spiritual, is not truly spiritual. If they are, they're trying to be, and they don't really quite understand it yet. They may know it, literally, like they may read books about it and get it in their mind, but they may not get it deep down in their spirit. And that's fine. I'm not trying to put anybody down. I wish everybody would attempt to get on the path of some sort. But anyway, interdimensional beings, let's say that the leftover debris on another planet is not just on that other planet. When it's in space, it's everything of every sort of memory. And those materials that are rocks, that are whatever, they cool down. They eventually have, there's space temperatures and stuff like that, because those beings and those organisms, those molecular structures that are now another planet or now another structure in space, are still growing and evolving. They don't stop. Nothing stops. Just because it's not on Earth doesn't mean it doesn't stop doing something. We just think it's out there, just blah, blah, blah. It's out there. Nothing amazing with those billions and billions and gagillions of stars and planets and galaxies. Nothing amazing. Science hasn't discovered anything yet. Science doesn't need to tell me anything, because I know. Like, the interdimensional beings are okay. Wasps, well, let's use those for example. They don't have to make a noise that we understand as people, but they understand through like more of a telepathy, more of a buzz, a hum, a dance, a gesture, those kind of things. Animals, bugs, other forms of life do that. Trees, they speak they understand each other in a way more subtle way than we would understand, but they do, and we can understand. That's the gift that we have. We are that in tune that if we learn how to do it, we can just tap right into that. but most people have never taught you that, and most people think that sounds absurd. And just because the way they think, it doesn't allow that option in their mind, so they totally shut spirit out. That's how that works. Belief and faith, that's what those mean. So the extraterrestrial beings are just, let's say, a slug, and like the particles of a slug, the memory of a slug, some spit particles, the memory of beings that were somewhat like humans, somewhat like Sumerians, somewhat like Atlanteans, something like anything that's ever lived. And the memory of those things is basically floating in space in a non-time fashion, and it has more time to do the same thing that, like, not even time. It just uses a time vehicle, and it, through a black hole, which is either a creation of life through space and time or an exit of life through space and time. So the black hole is, it erases or it creates. It's pretty simple. But nebulas and all those things are just things that people are trying to explain, that are just vast things that we have no words for, that are just energy evolving in ways that we'll never know, and we don't need to know. So just let it be. Let energy evolve. It's amazing. We are part of it. We can be part of it, and we can do what we can. As we can do more, we do more. Don't worry about jumping so far ahead to try to understand space, because we created it out of our unknowing. And now we have the time to actually start knowing instead of speculating. Okay, I have the truth for people, and that's really big of me to say, but I have to say it because through these interdimensional beings, they basically taught me the only way that they will speak to anyone on earth is when you declare that you are one with spirit. You don't have to be the one, the chosen one. You are one with spirit. You understand exactly what I'm saying, is that all those things are you. Even other dimensional beings are you. Everything that is physical is you, and they don't even know it all the time, and they're learning from me. They are learning from me in other dimensions, on wavelengths of brain telepathy that other people don't understand. I speak to beings on other planets all the time because they're not really planets. It's all right here. The only thing that everybody taps into is an idea. And like right now, it's starting to cross over in our world, and it's becoming physically represented with virtual reality and movies with really high tech, special effects. Like the kids these days seem like they're not listening, but it's because they already understand that none of that stuff matters. They're doing silly stuff like group dancing and watching. Well, not all of it's silly, but they're doing things like group dancing, and they're just following fads and trends and coloring their hair blue and purple and red and gauging their faces and doing all kinds of stuff like that just seemed absurd before. And to people that seem reformed and that have structure, that's just absurd. But animals and insects, when they evolve, they have all kinds of legs and body parts, and they look all absurd to each other, but they're evolving. We're evolving as people, and we're doing just absurd things because they don't know what direction to go in. And it's fine. They're just learning. Everybody's learning, no matter how old your age is. If you have blue hair, purple hair, red hair, 20,000 piercings, it's all good, man. You're just learning. You're going through your path, and that's your blessed privilege to have. So those extraterrestrial beings, you have to declare that you understand them, and you don't care that other people are going to ridicule you. You know they will. You know that other people will ridicule you. But there's people out there that talk on sci-fi channels, and even scientists that talk about space and other beings and stuff like that are starting to say it, because I unleashed it through time, and it's just trickled its way in through like the 1900s and through the whatever, and it's trickled its way in. But when I say I, that's in the space of not just Dan Alexander, and I know that doesn't make sense to people, but it showed me where the being that is the creator can intermingle with a time vehicle. It's actually really amazing. But those beings are just, say, like slugs evolve, and we see things evolve through time here. Like birds evolve into bigger things, and like little bacteria and little microorganisms evolve into bigger things. And we see caterpillars and stuff like that evolve, and how they go through that process. So that can help us understand. Those little things are ways for us to understand how it all works. Those little things, like the process of going into a cocoon and coming out as something else, is what we do with our body, is what all things do in one form or another. When they die, they go to the next phase, and when they die, they go to the next phase. And it seems like they're dying, but they're not. It's just the way that they have to erase their physical body from this spiritual blessed existence. Don't call it a simulation or an illusion anymore. Call it an existence. It's a beautiful life experience. I mean, but we will still use those words because we're going to, and they're only the ways we can use to express them. But deep down, it's just a beautiful life experience. Anyway, those extraterrestrial beings are like floating out in space is a bunch of burning balls of gas. What do you think they're doing? Well, not all of them are visible to our eye from here, and some of them are heating planets that we can't see or can't detect because we're not as intelligent as we think we are. Those beings are more intelligent in some ways, but not as intelligent in other ways because they're afraid of human beings because we want to be hostile. As soon as we meet them, we're hostile. So they've learned ways like through way insects, plants, trees, those kind of things communicated. They can communicate interplanetary. They can communicate intergalactic. But you have to be able to allow that part of your mind to open and fine tune it and learn how to use it. And I've learned how to use it. So when you truly know it's something, you'll know. When you think it's just you looking for an idea, you'll know that, of course. But when it just happens and it won't leave you alone, and it's telling you without you even thinking, and you're like, I have to do something about this. Most people get this kind of thing and they think they're crazy. Some people have a good background and stability with money, and people aren't going to think they're crazy, or enough people that would be behind them and say they're not crazy. I know them. They're very well, they have accolades. They're academic and all that kind of stuff. And then that kind of person talks about other planets and stuff, and people listen. Talk about extraterrestrial beings and interdimensional galaxies, and everyone's like, "Ooh, what are they talking about? This genius, this scientist knows." Well, I'm a genius too, but I just don't have a suit and tie on, and I don't believe I have to dress a certain way to appeal to people because that's falling into that kind of societal trap. So anyway, those beings are just like they've evolved in the same way, just like say an alien that looks like slime covered and blah blah blah. It's a representation of what it could use to show you itself, like of slugs and cocoons and larvae and bugs and insects and any of our mind moldable material those beings possess or present themselves as. An alien can be any shape and size, and they can come to the world, and they're showing themselves through the causal plane and the astral planes by coming into the ideas of human beings, creating stuff for us to see on TV, like the Marvel superhero movies and all those crazy things with all these big monsters and all that kind of stuff. Those are possible if we keep focusing on it or fearing them too much. But we don't. The thing is, we believe that they're make believe. And the good thing about those monsters is that. And that's why they basically warned me about saying too much to people about how our thoughts create things seriously. But it takes a long time because in a time vehicle, evolution would have to create those things. And it still is on another planet right now, but it's being destroyed and recreated and destroyed and recreated every second in a non-time sense. That happens billions of billions of light years every second, like infinite every second, infinite. We can't even imagine it. It's too much to try to explain because everything that's happened in every lifetime happens every second, every second. Because 1 second is a time vehicle, and everything happens within that second. Everything, every moment is another time vehicle. Every moment, another time vehicle. Every moment, another time vehicle. Once you learn that, you'll understand. So extraterrestrial beings, they can come, but they won't come until they feel that we're not hostile. And we're getting more hostile as time goes on because we're not understanding and we're upgrading because some of us are ready for this new intelligence shift. They call it paradigm shift, intelligence, upgrade of consciousness, whatever they call it. It doesn't really matter what they call it. This is what's happening. So I hope this helps, and leave comments, share this with everyone you can. I love you. Peace.